So just see this quotation. Yes, are you able to see?
In your country, it is the tailor decides the personality of man. But in my country, it is the character.
So I think you have seen, yeah. Madam, in your country, it is the tailor decides the personality of a person. But in my country, it is the character. Can any one of you tell who told this? Madam, in your country, it is the tailor decides the personality of a person. That means the dress code. The tailor decides means dress code. If a person comes by wearing some cotton suit with a tie, you will call him a gentleman. But in my country, it is the character. That means in my country, we are not calling a person gentleman by looking at the dress code, but we are calling a person gentleman. Or we are calling a person, we are telling that a person has got a better personality by looking at the character of that person. Have you ever heard this one? Any one of you? No? Any idea? Any guess? Yes. So Hamisa sent a message there. Let's look whether it is correct or not. Yeah. Yes, it's Swami Vivekananda. Yes, Hamisa, you are exactly correct. It was told by Swami Vivekananda. So when he went to America, all of you know the historical event. He went to America for attending a world religious conference. And he created some history there. He started his first speech by addressing the people, my dear brothers and sisters in America. The whole audience were astonished. They were wondered, they were shocked. Because until then, they had only heard something like Mr. and Mrs. or ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. And during his days in America, a lady often used to ridicule him. She often used to show some contempt. And one day, replying to this insulting or humiliation, Swami Vivekananda told her, Madam, in your country, it is the tailor decides the personality of a man, but in my country, it is the character. So today we are going to learn something about the educational contributions of Swami Vivekananda, one of the greatest scholars, one of the greatest philosophers, or one of the greatest thinkers India has given birth. I think all of you might have got some idea on his life. about his life. He was born in 1863 and his name was not Vivekananda, something else. What was his name? Yes?
Narendra.
Narendranath. Narendranath Datta, I think. Yeah.
Narendra.
Yeah, he was born in 1863. That means just after 2 years after the birth of Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore had been born in 1861. Last day we told. And Swami Vivekananda was not a brilliant student at school, but he was reading so many books during those days. And in 1881, that means when he was 18 years old, he became a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Parahamsa. After that, he started being called Swami Vivekananda. He was a brilliant personality. He had got great vision of life. So let's look at his educational concepts, educational thoughts. We can see some traditional elements as well as modern elements in his educational thoughts, in his educational concepts. Just as we saw in the case of Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. And I told you that there is a very beautiful essay or a convocational address done by Jawaharlal Nehru. It is available online. Synthesis is our tradition. And in that essay, Nehru tells about Vivekananda, Tagore, Gandhiji, and Aurobindo. So he was successful in creating a synthesis between East and West. So we can see elements from the traditional aspects of life and elements from the modern aspects. He was so much influenced by the traditional Indian values. You know, the traditional Indian values are honesty, simplicity, tolerance, and ahimsa, non-violence. And he believed that the most important aim of education should be knowledge attainment. And this is the first thing we can say when we talk about the educational contributions of Swami Vivekananda. Once he taught, knowledge is life and ignorance death. Knowledge is life and ignorance death. I told you this one, I think. If you have got knowledge, then only you become life. Otherwise, you are lifeless. That means if you haven't got any knowledge, if you're with no knowledge, that means you are a living dead body. He thought that instead of giving some pieces of information to our students, we will provide them deep knowledge. We will provide them detailed knowledge about anything. And nowadays, in this present scenario, actually we are not giving deep knowledge to our students. They are giving informations, only pieces of information, just for making them able to pass the competitive examinations. And see, if you ask the person who is winning some quiz competitions about his ability to win the quiz competitions, he or she must be telling that they are winning the quiz competition just because they have read some books in which you can see some questions and answers. They will give you objective type answers for any question in this world sometimes. But if you ask further questions on some answers they have given, they will not be able to explain. So knowledge is something vast. Knowledge is something deep. So according to Swami Vivekananda, if you teach something to a person, you should teach each and every aspect of that particular aspect. You should teach different areas. You should teach even the minute element related to that particular topic. So itself he told knowledge is life and ignorance death. In Holy Quran, there is a verse, قُلْ لَا يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. O Prophet, tell them that those who have got knowledge and those who haven't got knowledge are not same. There is a difference. And see, during the Vedic period and during the ancient periods, this knowledge was being considered as something sacred, something holy. I do not know whether I told this one another day. I just told this one in my classroom at college. I had an experience. I was studying in Farouk College for my MA English Literature. I was the college union chairman then, and I was sitting inside the classroom, and Dr. Yasin Ashraf, you might have heard, Dr. Yasin Ashraf was dealing with the class. Then one student came to the classroom, and she just asked Yasin Ashraf, sir, excuse me, sir, we need Hatibka. Actually, she came there just for telling about some issues in the hostel. Then sir told her, you just go and come after the class. And she went. Then Dr. Yasin Ashraf sir told me only a single sentence. And in that sentence, everything was included. He told me, classroom is something sacred. Classroom is something sacred. It's not a street. It should be honored. Classroom is something sacred means, actually classroom is where you are getting knowledge. Knowledge is holy. And this concept was there. So according to Swami Vivekananda, instead of providing some pieces of information, through education you have to give complete knowledge, complete idea on anything which you are teaching to your students. So you can forward some views on this one. What do you feel? Knowledge attainment A. Has anyone got some points on this one? No. So when you think about the general aims of education, you will see knowledge aim, then vocational aim. If you think about the present age, you will see that nowadays we are giving more importance to vocational aid. So there is competition. And this competition is not healthy. There is unhealthy competition. So there are conflicts, there is tension, there is everything. So this concept of Swami Vivekananda may be a solution for some of the problems which we see nowadays. Knowledge and wisdom. There should be knowledge and wisdom, according to Swami Vivekananda. And this is the first thing. And second one, as I told in the experience of Swami Vivekananda, character development. When we talked about Vedic education, we saw that character development was one of the aims of education. And we saw this one in the case of Mahatma Gandhi, and we saw this one in the case of Tagore. If you think about any educationists from India, you would see that they promoted character development as one of the aims of education. And you know the difference between character and personality. Personality is the peripheral appearance, or personality is the peripheral appearance or the external behavioral patterns. And character is something greater. It includes the inside and outside. And just look at the conversation between that lady and Swami Vivekananda. Madam, in your country it is the tailor decides the personality of a man, but in my country it is the character. And there was a person called Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar. You might have heard Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar. Has anyone of you heard Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar? And the great reformist in India. You might have heard Rajaram Mohan Roy. Then there was Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar. Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar was Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar fought against widow marriage act. I mean, there was no right to widows to get remarried during those days, and some people under the leadership of Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar fought against this rule, and because of his efforts, British government later passed Widow Marriage Act by giving right to widows in India to get remarried. And Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar was one of the greatest educationists. He was working under British government. One day, British authority arranged a party for honoring Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar. And he went to the place. He had worn his own native clothes. I mean, the normal clothes he used to wear. And he went to the gate, and the watchman prevented him from entering the hall where the party was arranged. The feast was arranged. And he went back. Then he returned to the place after a while by wearing some European clothes, some modern dress. And the watchman allowed him to enter the place without any quarrel. and the party started. All the people sat on the chairs, and Britishers had got their a habit. They had got a habit of waiting for the chief guest to start having the food. So all of them were waiting for Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. All of them were waiting to eat something after Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar starts eating something. But Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar just looked at his cloth and he requested his clothes. Please have something, please have something, please have that, please have this. Eat this one, eat that one. All of them were shocked and asked him, what the hell you're doing, sir? Why do you ask your clothes to eat something? Actually, you have to eat something. What are you doing? Then he told, actually, you have invited not me, but you have invited my clothes. What a reply. What an answer it was. So Indians, I mean the traditional Indians, all the Indian thinkers or Indian culture give more importance not to personality, not to the external appearance, not to the external look, not to the external get-up of a person, but our culture always gives importance to the character of a person. So Swami Vivekananda advocated character development as one of the most important aims of education. See, nowadays, if we are getting admission for our children in an English medium school, the first thing we are looking at the uniform, at the dress code, not at the quality of the teachers. Yeah, actually, he went to America, and he delivered some wonderful speeches in wonderful English language without changing his dress code. And this one again, we can go back to Vedic period or the Vedic concept or the ancient Indian concept. Kakadrishti, Shwananitra, Jirnavastram, Alpaharam, Ivayevam, Vidyarthi, Lakshana. Jirnavastram. What is this Jirnavastram? Lack of luxurious life. Or not giving much importance to the external appearance. Not spending more time before mirror, looking at your dress code, looking at your external appearance, looking at your external getup. Yeah, looking at whether you're handsome or not, looking at whether you're beautiful or not. So we are giving more important nowadays. We are giving more importance to uniforms, dress codes, and such things. But we should not give so. So character development should be one of the most important aims of education according to Swami Vivekananda. Yes? Got it? Right? Any views? Anything to tell? Yes, Hamisa? Yes? Anything? No. So I think I can continue, yeah? Right?
Yes, sir.
Then another concept which also you might have heard, his concept of man-making education. Man-making education. What is this man-making education? What is this man-making education? Can you tell me? So I may ask you another question. He called Kerala. We call Kerala God's own country. We are boasting that our Kerala is God's own country. We always boast that our Kerala is God's own country. Yes, what did Swami Vivekananda call our Kerala?
Randale.
Yes, lunatic asylum. Yes, lunatic asylum. That means a center of mad people. What was the reason? Just because of the untouchability and the dynamic caste system in our state. Just on account of the untouchability and the caste system in our Kerala. Just think about this untouchability. You cannot see any sort of humanity there. See, even after getting education, still some people keep this inhuman tendency in their minds. So even if you have got some intellectual development, if you are not able to show some humanity towards your co-beings, what is the use of your education? That is the question put forth by Swami Vivekananda. Education should make a person real human. Real human means a person who can keep some empathy towards others. And you know the difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is our feeling towards some other people that when the other people are having some pain, having some tragedy, we would feel that that tragedy is ours, that pain is ours. That is empathy. Education should be capable of creating empathy in the minds of the people. It should create human beings. It should create real human beings. And real human beings will be with some humanity. Real human beings will be some humanity towards the co-beings. If you have got humanity, if you are real human beings, you can never torture others in the name of caste. You cannot create any sort of rules and regulations such as untouchability and something like that. How can you make so? See, the most severest punishment you can give to a human being is not to beat him, not to attack him, not to physically attack him. But the most severest punishment that you can give a man or woman is to isolate them from others, to make them away from others. Because one of the most important or significant needs, one of the most primary needs, one of the most basic needs of a human being is right to communicate with others. Because man is a social animal. So, for example, if one of your students come to your classroom a little bit late, if you just give a block and tell her or him to enter the classroom, it is over there. Yeah, it is over there. Once the pain of that beat is over, it is over. But if you make the student stand outside the classroom till the end of your period, it will be more painful, more humiliation more insulting and more distressing and more disturbing for that particular student. Because you're isolating him from communicating with others. You know that Britishers used to send some prisoners or some freedom fighters to islands. Why? Because that is something more painful than beating. That is something more painful than attacking, physical torture. To be away from your relatives, to be away from your co-beings, to be away from your friends, to be away from the human beings just like you. And that is what you are doing through untouchability. So don't do that. Human beings cannot do that according to Swami Vivekananda. No human being can torture others. No human being can insult others. No human being can disturb others. If your education is not capable of creating real human beings, or even after getting some education, if the educated people are not respecting the rights of others, not respecting the individuality of others, not respecting the personality of others, that means the education which you have given to these people is useless, absurd, meaningless. So man-making education. Yes, got the idea? Yes? Anything to say? If anyone of you have to say, has to say something, you can just tell me. So knowledge attainment, aim, character development, then man making. Then I will tell you the definition given by Swami Vivekananda to the process of education. According to Swami Vivekananda, education is the manifestation of divine, the manifestation of the divine perfection already in man. Education is the divine perfection already in man. Manifestation of the divine perfection already in man. A very beautiful definition. Education is the manifestation of divine perfection already in man. So it tells that there is divine perfection in each and every person. You are not creating any divine perfection. You are not creating virtues. You are not creating anything new. Everything is there. This divine perfection may be in the shape of, or in the mode of, or maybe the ability to draw pictures, maybe the ability to sing songs, maybe the ability to find something by using intelligence, maybe the ability to by heart, maybe the ability to speak. So it may be in different forms, but there is divine perfection. So you are helping them to develop this divine perfection already in them. Just go back to the definition given by Mahatma Gandhi. By education, I mean an all-round drawing out of the best in man and child. Similarly, you are not creating new behavior patterns. You are not creating something new. You are not giving something new. You are not teaching anything new. Everything is there inside a person.
Atif sir, ഇതൊക്കെ ഒരു ഐഡിയലിസ്റ്റ് വ്യൂ പോയിന്റിൽ കാണുന്നില്ല അല്ലേ ശരിക്കും ഈ വിവേകാനന്ദ ഫിലോസഫി ഒക്കെ?
Yeah, but here, sir, divine perfection already in man. Actually, your manifestation of divine perfection already in man. This divine perfection is a part of idealism or Vedic philosophy. It's something similar to idealism, because divinity is there. That means the spiritual aspect is there. But this manifestation already in man, it comes to naturalism and pragmatism or modern concept. So according to idealism, actually you're teaching the spirituality. You're teaching what life is. You're teaching what the ultimate life is. You're teaching dharma. You're teaching different items. And idealism sees a person as an empty vessel or an empty bank account. But this one, according to Swami Vivekananda, you are not teaching something new. You are not creating anything new. But the divine perfection is already known. So you are facilitating for the manifestation of that divine perfection. That means it is similar to naturalism. So it is a modern concept. And if you want to help the student, the youngster, to develop that divine perfection, to manifest that divine perfection, you should allow them to actualize. And this actualization is one of the aims of education according to naturalism. And for manifesting what is in his mind, you have to give freedom. And this freedom is a part of modernity. So you can see this combination. You can see this, what I told, the synthesis. In that particular definition itself, he represents two entirely different concepts. First one, divine perfection. That's a part of idealism or Vedic philosophy, and manifestation of that divine perfection. That means self-manifestation, and self-manifestation is a part of learner-centered education, and that learner-centered education is a concept of naturalism. So you can see this synthesis there. And another concept, if you look at the definition again, so the matter is that when you look at the definition given by these people, you can interpret the definition in different manners, because the definition has got some vast area. You can elaborate it in different, you can give different explanations there. So if you look at the definition itself, you will get another concept, educational concept, Swami Vivekananda. Just like Tagore, he also was the promoter of international brotherhood or universal understanding, international understanding or universal brotherhood. Look at it, again you look at it. Education is the manifestation of divine perfection already in man. That means each and every person keeps that divine perfection. Each and every person keeps that divine perfection, regardless to his country, regardless to the difference in the borders of the country, regardless to his caste, regardless to his religion, regardless to his race, regardless to his location. So it promotes international brotherhood. So he was of the view that education should promote universal brotherhood. Again, we can go back during that time when all the people from different countries used to address Europeans when delivering a speech by telling ladies and gentlemen or Mr. and Mrs. That youngster, that young man who wore the dress code of a sannyasi, a saint, a Hindu saint, just started the speech by telling, my dear brothers and sisters. So it is again, just like Tagore, he was promoting international brotherhood or international understanding or internationalism, the concept of internationalism. So he was a promoter of education for internationalism or universal brotherhood. And again, you can look at the definition. And if you look at the definition in by using another point of view, you will see that he was promoting modern methods in the field of education. So you have to make use of discussion, you have to make use of conversation, you have to make use of interaction, because you have to find out that divine perfection. That divine perfection may be in the form of different aspects. Maybe the ability to draw a picture, maybe the ability to sing, maybe the ability to grasp something by using the intellectual power. So you have to find that divine perfection. And see, every person has got some virtue. Last day we told that Mahatma Gandhi had told hate the sin, not the sinner. So every man has got some virtue. Every person has got some virtue. And if you see some people doing something evil, don't blame them. But you should keep that each and every person has got the divine perfection. But he was against that divine perfection. He becomes against that divine perfection. So you have to find out the reason behind that. Why? Maybe some circumstances might have made him deviate from that divine perfection. So you should find out the reason behind that deviation from the divine perfection. And by finding out that particular reason, you should try to make him come back to that divine perfection, that virtue. So you have to make use of modern methods. Just give them freedom and make use of methods such as discussion, debate, and intellectual interaction to make them realize this divine perfection. So these are some beautiful concepts, something philosophical. So according to him, the most important aim of education, one of the most important aims of education was knowledge attainment, then character development, then man-making education, making or creating real human beings, then international brotherhood or international understanding or universal brotherhood, and carrying something out from the person and helping them to develop themselves. And another most important concept when we talk about Swami Vivekananda, another most important thing is that he was a real promoter of women education. I think we can, but sometimes most of the people will not be believing this, or most of the people will not be ready to accept this one, because we feel that Hindu saints or some religious scholars never promote women education. Swami Vivekananda believed that the problems faced by women could be solved not by men, but by women themselves. And he thought that women should be given a share in the case of power, ruling. Women also should be a part of ruling. Women also should be a part of authority. Women also should be a part of administration. And he thought that if you want to make women a part of administration, if you want to make women a part of authority, if you want to make women solve their problems themselves, there is only one way, and that is giving them education. He was a real promoter of women education. And he thought that a woman can educate their sons and daughters. If you give education to a woman, that means you are giving education to a new generation. If women are educated, then they can provide that education to their sons and daughters. Actually, it's something true. You know that if you look at parents, most of the time, mothers are bothered about the education of children. And education starts from family. Because according to Mahatma Gandhi, whatever we learn, whatever we acquire from the birth to the tomb is a part of education. And this lifelong education, concept of lifelong education, you can see in Mahabharata. I think you might have heard the story of Abhimanyu and Padmavyuha. Dronacharya created Padmavyuha, a sort of activity in traditional war, Padmavyuha. And Arjuna had been taken by some other enemy to a distant area. Actually, it was a plan. An enemy took Arjuna away from the center of the warfield. And during that time, Dronacharya created Padmavyuha. And no one else except Arjuna could or knew how to enter Padmavyuha. Then Abhimanyu came forward. Abhimanyu knew how to enter Padmavyuha not because Arjuna taught him, but when Abhimanyu was in the womb of, I think, Uttaraya, wife of Arjuna. Was it Uttaraya?
Yes.
He was in the womb of Uttara, and Arjuna was teaching Uttara how to create Padmavyuha and how to break that Padmavyuha and come back. Unfortunately, Uttara learned or Uttara listened to the first part, how to enter Padmavyuha. But when Arjuna started telling about how to break and come out of Padmavyuha, she fell asleep. Now Abhimanyu was there in the womb of Uttara. He learned how to enter Padmavyuha, but he did not learn how to break and come out. So he was able to enter, but he was not able to come out, and he was killed. So this shows that this concept of education from womb to tomb was there. So it's a Vedic concept. The most suitable person to give education to youngsters is none else but mother. So two concepts are there, two things are there. When talking about the concept of women education put forth by Swami Vivekananda, the first thing is, according to him, women's problems should be solved by themselves. Because only women know what their problems are. So he believed that their problems should be solved by themselves. And for that, they should be a part of administration. and for making them capable of a part of administration so that to solve the problems, they should be given education. And another point of view in this regard is that according to Swami Vivekananda, if you want to give education to the new generation, your women should be educated. Because women can provide education or transmit the education they have got to the newer generation. So he was a real promoter of women education. So these are some concepts. So you can see this synthesis of East and West in his educational thoughts. So now you can forward some points. And see, the matter is that when we look at some online resources, some of the people have written personality development was one of the aims of education according to Swami Vivekananda and something like that. Actually, these are some mistaken notions because people write some blogs, and if you look at the educational concepts of modernists and traditionalists written by these people, you will see all the items in all the people. If you look at the curriculum of idealism, you will see science and such things. Actually, idealists were not promoting science. Yeah, if you look at the curriculum of idealists, you will see poetry. Actually, Plato was against poetry. He was thinking that poetry is imitation of an imitation. When people are writing something, they will write something without having any authentic points. That's something I think a habit of people, because when you write a blog, no one is there to verify whether you are writing something accurate or not. So I think all these things are related with his educational concepts, because he was a great scholar. Just like Tagore, he was not interested in rote memorization, or he was not interested in by hearting some pieces of information, but he told that if you teach something to a person, then you should give complete knowledge, deep idea on any aspect. So he was the promoter of character development. He was the promoter of internationalism or universal brotherhood. He was the promoter of learner-centered education. He was the promoter of freedom, natural freedom for students. He was the promoter of discussion and such modern methods and techniques in the field of education. And he was the promoter of man-making education. And finally, he was the real promoter of women education. So this is something about Swami Vivekananda's contributions to education. And see, from this morning onwards, I have been suffering with some headache. So I was not able to refer again. These are something which I tell from my memory, from my past experiences. So something which I learned in the past. Today I was not able to make a special reference for telling something about this topic. I'm sorry, because I was not physically well. So you can add more points. Maybe you might have got something related to Swami Vivekananda's concept of education. Yes, anyone?
ഞാനൊരു ബസ്സിലാണ് ആദ്യം എന്നാലും എനിക്ക് കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയാനുണ്ട്.
Yeah, sir.
കേൾക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ടോ?
Yes, tell me.
ഓക്കെ. അതായത് ഒരു വിവേകാനന്ദനെ കുറിച്ച് ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും വായിക്കുമ്പോഴും അതുപോലെ മനസ്സിലാക്കുമ്പോഴും ഒക്കെ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയ ഒരു കാര്യം, ഈ പ്രാഗ്മാറ്റിസത്തിന്റെ എലമെന്റ് വളരെയധികം കൂടുതൽ ഇതിൽ കാണാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതായത് ഒരു നല്ല മാർക്കറ്റിംഗ് തന്ത്രം വിവേകാനന്ദൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എനിക്ക് എപ്പോഴും തോന്നിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് തോന്നാനുള്ള കാരണം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല്, അതായത് അക്കാലത്ത് ഇന്ത്യയെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം വിവേകാനന്ദന്റെ കർമ്മയോഗ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റിന്റെ ഒബ്ജക്റ്റീവായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കുന്ന കാര്യം എന്താണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് ഇന്ത്യയിലെ പാവപ്പെട്ട മാസത്തിനെ സഹായിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. പിന്നീട് രാമകൃഷ്ണ മിഷൻ സെറ്റപ്പ് ചെയ്തപ്പോഴൊക്കെ അതായിരുന്നു ഉദ്ദേശം. അപ്പൊ ഈ മാസത്തിനെ സഹായിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരുപാട് പൈസ ആവശ്യമുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ ആ പൈസ ഉണ്ടാക്കാനുള്ള വഴി എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ മണി അവർക്ക് വിഷം ആവശ്യമുണ്ട്, നമുക്ക് പൈസ ആവശ്യമുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അത് നന്നായിട്ട് മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്തുള്ള ഒരു സത്യമാണ്. അതൊരു പ്രാഗ്മാറ്റിക് പ്ലാനായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കാണുന്നുള്ളൂ. ഒരു വ്യക്തിയെ ആവശ്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയല്ല പൈസ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത്, ഒരു സോഷ്യൽ കോസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അതൊരിക്കലും വിവേകാനന്ദന്റെ പ്രേരണ പുറത്തുപോകാന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷെ ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് വെച്ചാൽ അത്രയും കൃത്യമായിട്ട് അത് മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്യുകയും പിന്നെ അമേരിക്ക പോയി വലിയ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ നടത്തുകയും അതിനെ നന്നായിട്ട് മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് അതിൽ ഇഷ്ടംപോലെ വരുമാനം ഉണ്ടാക്കി ആ വരുമാനം കൊണ്ടാണ് ഇന്ത്യയിലെ പാവപ്പെട്ടവൻ വിവേകാനന്ദൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ആൾക്കാര് ഒരു നേരത്തെ ഭക്ഷണം കഴിക്കാതെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന കാലത്തോളം ഇല്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ആൾക്കാരെ ഭക്ഷണം കൂട്ടാൻ സാധിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു എന്നുള്ളത് വിവേകാനന്ദന്റെ വളരെ വലിയ പ്രാഗ്മാറ്റിക് ആണ് എന്നുള്ളതിന്റെ ഒരു വലിയ തെളിവായിട്ടാണ് എനിക്ക് എപ്പോഴും തോന്നിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. അതെന്റെ ഒരു പെർസ്പെക്റ്റീവാണ്. ഞാനൊരു ഡിഫറെന്റ് പെർസ്പെക്റ്റീവ് പറഞ്ഞെന്ന് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. നിങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ എല്ലാ പെർസ്പെക്റ്റീവായിട്ട് ഇതുമുണ്ട്. അത് എല്ലാവരും വെച്ചാൽ വിവേകാനന്ദന്റെ സ്റ്റേച്ചറിനെ ഉയർത്തുന്നു എന്ന് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ, താഴ്ത്തുന്നില്ല എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നത്.
Yes, sir. Actually, you're right, sir. Because I forgot to tell one point. He was the promoter of mass education too. Because, as you told, see, when Britishers were there, and India was only an underdeveloped country, it was not possible to collect money from Indians. It was not possible to look after the poor people of India. So he was making use of a pragmatic attitude or pragmatic mode of collecting the items, and he was creating some synthesis. Maybe. So I think you're right, sir. So I admit your points, sir. Yeah. He was the promoter of mass education too, and he was working for the poor people, and they had to get some fund from Europeans. So maybe some pragmatic aims and objectives also might be there. So you're right, sir. Yeah. Any other point? Yeah. I think you can read more because lots of studies are there on Swami Vivekananda, Tagore, and Gandhiji. You can read more and you can get more points.
ആദ്യം സാറേ, ഈ വിവേകാനന്ദനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയുമ്പോൾ അയാൾ ഒരു ഇന്റഗ്രൽ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ പ്രൊമോട്ട് ചെയ്ത ഒരാളായിട്ടില്ലേ കാണുന്നല്ലേ?
Yes.
ഇന്റഗ്രൽ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ പ്രൊമോട്ട് ചെയ്ത്.
Yeah, actually, sir, when we think about
നമ്മള്
yeah.
അതായത് നമ്മൾ ഈസ്റ്റും വെസ്റ്റും തമ്മിലുള്ള ഒരു കോൺവെർസേഷൻ എപ്പോഴും ഈ വിവേകാനന്ദ ഫിലോസഫിയിൽ വരുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ. അവരെ സ്പിരിച്വലും അതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ സ്പിരിച്വലും വെസ്റ്റിന്റെ ഒരു മെറ്റീരിയലിസ്റ്റിക് ഫിലോസഫി തമ്മിലൊരു കമ്പാരിസൺ എപ്പോഴും വിവേകാനന്ദന്റെ ഒരു ഇതിൽ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്.
So here the matter is that actually Vivekananda was not believing in mere practicing religion. Because if you look at people of actually according to Vivekananda, most of the people are following the religious customs or religious rituals just because they see their ancestors do so. And he believed that it should not be so. He believed that there should be an intellectual thinking about the rituals one follows. And see, I have told you that knowledge attainment aim. For expanding your knowledge, actually, you should need intelligence. And this intellectual development will provide you more knowledge. And if we think about this one, we can go back to this learning to know, a pillar of education promoted by UNESCO. So according to Vivekananda, you have got some divine perfection. That divine perfection may be intelligence. That divine perfection may be your ability to think. That divine perfection may be logical thinking. So you should expand your knowledge. And if you look at Vedic period, one of the most important methods of education teaching, or one of the most significant methods of teaching used during Vedic period was Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. This Shravana and Manana is there in the modern educational system, but Nididhyasana is not there. Shravana, to listen to what is recited by the teacher. Manana, to by heart what is recited by the teacher. And Nididhyasana, contemplation, means to think in a deep manner in your own mind on what you have already by hearted. And this one, for expanding your knowledge, you should think about what you have by hearted. There should be meaningful learning. It's not mere by heart, it's not mere grasping. But after grasping something, or after collecting some information, or after collecting some items, you should think. You should think about what you have collected. And this one is the intellectual side. And as you told, these people never believe that only one idea should be accepted by any person. If you think about the religion of Europeans and if you get some virtue, then you can accept. And for that, you make use of your intelligence, your thinking capacity. So he was not believing in mere practicing religion or imitation of religious rituals or customs. He was telling that each and every person should realize the real factor behind religious worshiping, the real history behind the religious worshiping, the real incident behind the religious worshiping. And one more thing I forgot, he was the promoter of concentration. I mean, this one, Nididhyasana, as I told, this thinking, or by sitting alone and make use of your concentration for expanding your knowledge space. And just like yoga, maybe he was a Hindu saint, so he believed that by using your concentration or by using dhyana, by using contemplation, you can expand your knowledge space. Yes, you're right, sir. So intellectual development, one of the
He also given importance to physical education also, is it, sir?
yeah, he also gave importance to physical education. I just left it because most of the people gave importance to physical education, because that's a concept in the traditional it's a traditional concept, because the great Socrates has told that education is the sound creation of the sound mind in a sound body. And Vivekananda actually he practiced wrestling and such things when he was a youngster. He was interested in wrestling and such things. So you're right, teacher. He also promoted physical education too. That means all-round development, not only a particular area, but when you give education to your youngsters, you should give focus to each and every domain: physical domain, cognitive domain, spiritual domain, and everything should be learned in a meaningful manner. That is intelligence, not rote memorization, not mechanical learning, not mere getting some information, but deep learning should be there. And for deep learning, actually, you should contemplate. For contemplating or for concentrating, you should get a healthy body. For example, if you have got a sick body, if you have got an unhealthy body, you cannot concentrate on anything. So physical, actually, I think you might have heard about Kalari. Kalari is not mere martial art. It is not mere war-related art. By learning Kalari, actually, you can enhance your concentration. Because our physical body and our mind are related to each other. One damage in your physical body may be destroying your concentration, right? So physical education also was promoted by Swami Vivekananda. Thank you, teacher. Again, I forgot that point. Yeah. Yes. So I think let's conclude. Yeah. Right. Yes. Is there anything more?
Okay, thank you, Hatip sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we can. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.